It took a little while, but I am finally back with the sequel to long rap songs. Last time I did 4, but due to all the comments, this time I will be doing 12. So buckle in, because this is going to be one of my longest videos ever. So enjoy.
Yo, shout out to everybody who worked on the album, you feel me, Shane? Yo, shouts out to...
So this video gives me an excuse to talk about one of my favorite rap groups ever, Odd Future. If y'all ain't know, I rap myself, and I'm in a group with a ton of creative people, so you can kinda connect the dots on why I like them so much. On the 20th of March in 2012, Odd Future would drop their debut studio album, The Odd Future Tape, Volume 2. It's unfortunately also the only album by the collective, and the second volume to the original Odd Future Tape, that dropped in 2008 on November the 15th. Today, I'm gonna talk about their song, Oldie. They'd end up making a music video for the song, while doing a very well-known photo shoot that'll lead to the picture on screen right now. Anyways, the track itself also serves as a way for me to talk about posse cuts. As I'm sure most of you know, a posse cut is a song featuring several rappers, all having verses on the song. It's used as a way to kind of show off all of their talents. Notable examples aside from this one are One Train, So Appalled, Vice City, and Pinata. All those are legendary tracks, by the way. Anyways, let's dive into the topic of this section, Oldie. Oldie is the 18th and final track to the album, serving as a posse cut, as I've mentioned, featuring all the rapping members and Taco and Jasper, with the latter only being there in order to make his racks grow faster. The track sits at 10 minutes and 38 seconds and samples a drum loop from the artist Solomon Burke from his song Get Out of My Life Woman. Alongside this sample, Doma Genesis interpolates a bar from his own song, Rolling Papers, which was the title track on one of his own tapes and would later be added to a compilation album, 12 Odd Future songs. Earl would also interpolate a bar in his verse from a song called La Di Da Di by Doug E. Fresh and Slick Rick. Before we get into the verses, we get an intro from Taco, thanking everyone that worked on the album, giving shoutouts and all that good stuff. Also, fun fact, Ty Dollars is not Ty Dolla $ign, it is instead Tyler the Creator. Tripped me up a little bit on my first listen. Anyways, after the Taco introduction, we get verses from Tyler, Hodgie, Left Brain, Mike G, Doma, Frank, Jasper, Earl, and a reprise from Tyler doing a second verse at the end. Also, something that's kinda cool is that out of the people that Taco shouts out at the beginning, all the ones that he mentions that do verses have their verses come in the order of the shoutouts. Tyler first, then Hodgie, Left Brain, Doma, and Frank. That's just something I thought would be cool to mention. As a posse cut, the song is also hella different to the ones I talked about last time, and also most of the ones in this video. It's more so used to showcase the synergy between the members and each of their respective talents, rather than try and weave together some sort of a narrative. And that's still great. You can really see this in the aforementioned video with some of the members out of the group of like 20 plus people, just chilling at the XXL shoot, rapping off their verses, dancing, hyping each other up, and really just being friends. As we know, the collective has of course disbanded. Some friendships aren't really what they used to be, but nonetheless, this video, song as a whole, is an amazing display of their talent. Fresh on the scene, making their own way through social media, something that wouldn't be easily replicated today. Odd Future was one of the greatest hip-hop collectives of all time, and the fact that so many hip-hop and hip-hop adjacent legendary albums came out of this group is insane. Sad to see some of them go their separate ways, but these are grown-ass men, and the music that they all made together as teenagers in California is undeniably legendary. This group honestly redefined culture, and while I wasn't around to see it firsthand, hearing about them after the fact is just crazy to me. Now let's go a bit darker with this next song. Now I don't want to say I'm the type to gatekeep, even though low-key I can sometimes be like that, but the fact that the climactic final lines of this song got TikTokified is insane to me. Like bro, TikTok will get their hands on anything and just ruin the messaging behind it. On the one hand, I don't entirely mind, because some people are going to hear the song and go, hey, that's kind of nice, and actually listen to it. But that's not really what happens with the vast majority of them. Anyways, I don't want to be ranting too much, but I will say, skip to the time frame on screen if you're below 13, because this is honestly a straight up horrific song, and I don't want to traumatize anybody. Alright, cool. Dance with the Devil is the 11th track on the debut studio album by Immortal Technique. Now technically, this song is 9 minutes and 39 seconds, which is the first thing I want to bring up. The song is split into 2 parts, with the second hidden track, Diabolical, coming in at 6:57 after a few seconds of silence. Most people only really talk about the former track, which not counting the secret track sits at 6 minutes and 53 seconds. But let me quickly address the secret track before we get on with the main event. Diabolic is a 2-verse short track with a verse from Immortal Technique and one from Diabolic, who the track is of course named after. It's pretty much your average braggadocious rap song, with some cool ass bars, a song that every rapper needs to have. And legitimately, that's all I gotta say on it. Now on to Dance with the Devil. Dance with the Devil is a song that Immortal Technique claims is both real and that he was present for. It features a sample from the song Theme from Love Story by Henry Mancini. It turns this fun little song into an atmospheric, haunting piano melody. truly the stuff of nightmares. A lot of people say they can't listen to Meet the Grams because of what the song's saying about Drake and how it's being said, and honestly, I don't agree with that. I love that song, but I can completely see what they mean for a song like this. This song is just next level. The first verse brings us into this world, telling the story of a kid named Billy, trying to make it big in a gang and earn respect. He started earning a reputation from his hustling, but got arrested and ratted out the people in his gang. This led to a lack of trust and respect. We then go into the chorus, touching on how devils follow people and how anyone can be corrupted. In the second verse, we see him struggle with trying to get the respect back. He does whatever he can and ultimately suggests that they rape a woman. The members agree and we go back into the chorus. Then Tech paints a picture of a dark and rainy street. The thugs ride around until they see a woman at 3 a.m. trying to head home. They take her to a rooftop, punch her and kick her down. Billy even steps on and breaks her jaw. Then they rape her at the end of the verse, with Billy going first. They then tell him to kill her. But before we hear the gun, we get a bridge, sampling Mobb Deep's song Survival of the Fittest, which, quick side note, was in the new Mortal Kombat trailer. This bridge, rather than the chorus from before, connects verses 3 and 4 more closely than the rest. It's like a 3-act story, beginning, middle, and end. As we get into verse 4, we get what is probably the most infamous twist in all of hip-hop. The woman that these thugs raped and are about to kill is Billy's mother. Whether literally or figuratively in both the context of the song and the real events that happened, doesn't really matter. While yes, raping your own mother is absolutely vile, the point still stands even if it wasn't his actual mother. He sees his mother in this woman and feels bad about it. He did something to someone in the same situation as him. Unable to face himself with what he's done, Billy jumps, dying soulless. And the thugs shoot his mother on the rooftop, never speaking of that day. And now Billy and his actions are immortalized in the song, as Immortal Technique recalls what went down the day he raped that woman with Billy. Now he watches on as the devil follows him around, and as the devil follows around those without morality. In the final lines, he warns the listener, don't dance with the devil, because that dance might last you forever.
No, listen.
As I'm sure you know, Tyler loves his multi-part songs. Every album except Chromacopia has one, and every album except Don't Tap the Glass has it on track 10. Call Me If You Get Lost is no different. Sweet / I Thought You Wanted to Dance is track 10 on the album, and it sits at 9 minutes and 49 seconds. The track is split into 2 parts, of course, those being Sweet and I Thought You Wanted to Dance. It was originally teased on June the 14th in 2021 as a snippet from the first half of the song posted on Insta and YouTube, with the titles 10, Sweet, and Side Street, respectively. Also, Taco's in the video, which is pretty awesome. A lot of the Odd Future crew were around in both the music and marketing for this album, which is just really nice to see. Anyways, let's talk about this amazing 2-part song. Sweet takes us into Tyler's infatuation with this girl that's been cheating on her man with him. To assist him on the portion of the track, he brings in Brent Faiyaz, who he'd last collabed with on Brent's track, Gravity. The two really complement each other, and the singing is just so goddamn nice. The track also first debuted as a much earlier demo on my favorite track of Tyler's 2017 album, Flower Boy. That being, I Ain't Got Time. For a good while after the release of Flower Boy, people thought that this teaser would never actually end up releasing, with some even thinking it was Tyler's actual ringtone. But finally, years later, it would drop. Now all we're waiting on is Number. I need that track, Tyler, please. This happens a lot in Tyler's catalog, not gonna lie. Earthquake was created during the Flower Boy sessions, and Tyler tried to give it to Rihanna and Bieber, but they both declined, so he used it in Igor. Anyways, the track is all about Tyler's love for this girl, talking about how she's sweet like sugar, and how he wants to be with her no matter what. We also get a lovely bridge from Brent, echoing these same sentiments. Then we get sort of an outro to the song, before Tyler segues us into the next part. In this segue, we also hear someone say, Call Me If You Get Lost in French, with there being a lot of French on this album. This then takes us to, I Thought You Wanted to Dance, as DJ Drama screams at us. Also, I just wanted to ask, do y'all dislike Drama shouting on every song in Call Me If You Get Lost? I feel like it kind of fits the vibe of the whole album, unlike something like Swamp Izzo on Music. But that's just me, so you guys let me know, alright? Anyways, where Brent Faiyaz assisted Tyler in the first half, Tyler is now helped by Fauna Hughes. After some time, the girl cheating on her man decides it's best to break it off, and Tyler is left heartbroken. Fauna sings from the perspective of the girl, and Tyler feels wronged. He thinks that she wanted this and shouldn't be ending it. He thought she wanted to dance, but now they're moving away from that. After a chorus, we get a proper rapping performance from Tyler, where he goes through their affair, wishing they hadn't met, and much like he does, relating what he's saying to real events. Touching on his avoidance of weed and Tyler the Creator's relationships, not Baudelaire's. At a concert in Brooklyn for Amazon Music, Tyler would end up revealing that he had written the song after watching the Steve McQueen film Lovers Rock, which was a part of the anthology series entitled Small Axe. Finally, the outro for the song would end up getting tweaked just before release, with Tyler and Fauna knocking the thing out in about an hour. The song as a whole is without a doubt one of Tyler's best, and definitely one of my favorites. If you haven't listened to it, which is probably unlikely, I definitely recommend doing so. This whole album is a perfect blend of Tyler's previous sounds across his discography, with DJ drama screaming in your ears and great rapping performances throughout.
This remind me of before we had insomnia. Sleeping peacefully, never needed a pile of drugs, everybody was college bound.
Now let's continue the streak of two-part songs with the penultimate track to Saba's 2018 album and second studio album overall, Care For Me, with the tracks being titled PromK King. Quick tangent, first time I listened to this song was when I was trying to find the song Breakdown from Saba's collab tape with No ID from a snippet I heard. So I listened to this on complete accident thinking they were the same song, and thank God I did. This track, as I mentioned before, is a two-parter and sits at 7 minutes and 32 seconds long. When the titles are read together, it reads out PromK King, a very clear-cut reference to prom kings and queens, which is a good reference considering the theming. Alongside this track, the intro on the album, Busy/Sirens, is also a double track song. In all honesty, I might just have to make a video on these because there are a lot of artists that do them, and I feel like I've got something to say on it. Anyways, let's start with the first half of the track, Prom. Saba opens the track by reminiscing over how the beat makes him think of his life as a youngin', while also foreshadowing what's to come on the track. The track opens with Saba painting a picture of himself during his senior year of high school, the lead up to his prom. More so, Saba talks about him starting to become closer with his cousin Walt, who went by the alias Dinner with John when rapping. Walt asks Saba if he has a date to the dance, but the girl that he'd intended on taking decided on flaking, leaving him heartbroken. But Walt has his cousin's back. He gives him a girl's number, and despite being skeptical at first, Saba ignores his concerns and gets ready to go with her. Before the prom, Walt needs some money, so Saba, of course, decides to help. However, seeing where he lives, he's shocked. His own family is living in conditions worse off than his own, and his parents know about it. Nonetheless, their bond starts to grow, and they end up playing basketball the day afterwards. Saba, Walt, and Walt's little brother. Saba and Walt go to different proms, so the former ends up leaving early with his girl to head over to where Walt is. Before he sees Walt though, the brother of the sister he's on a date with tries to get into a scuffle with him, and lets him know that he shouldn't try anything on his sister. Saba doesn't end up bringing it up though, because he knows Walt is overprotective and doesn't want him to worry. After prom, we get a short skip before we make our way into the second half of the song, King. From here we pick up with both of them in college. Saba has started to become a fledgling rapper, and seeing as how Walt is also a rapper, they both try to book gigs and venues. The second half also touches on the gang culture and violence surrounding Chicago and how it affects them, with Walt and their friend T.Y. almost getting killed. Alongside this, he makes reference to the rap group he's in called Pivot, which Walt used to be a part of. Coming off of his debut studio album, Walt gearing up to drop a tape, and in all honesty, life is just good at the time. Much like the Kid Cudi song reference, they're surfing through life, but life ain't perfect. We hear that Walt's mother has called up Saba at the end of the verse, that she's unsure where he's at the moment, wondering if Saba had seen him. The verse then ends with Saba saying that no matter where Walt is, they're gonna find him. But I'm sure you know that doesn't happen. The song then ends with an outro, which is actually a recording of Walt, hoping to make it another day, which just oozes with dramatic irony. The story then gets wrapped up in the final track of the album, which I'll quickly touch on. Heaven All Around Me is the final track on Saba's 2018 album, Care For Me, and much like several of the songs last time, features him rapping from the perspective of another person, then rapping from Walt's perspective in verse 2 as he dies. The title also reflects some of the religious themes throughout the album, as Walt's soul is taken away to heaven as he passes. This song is really amazing, man. Rest in peace, John Walt, and make sure you care for your family while you've still got them. Rest easy, Mac. Now to wrap up this streak of songs with two parts, let's talk about the 11th track on Mac Miller's 2015 third studio album, Good AM, titled Perfect Circle / Godspeed. The song sits at 7 minutes and 55 seconds. As you can probably infer, the song is split into two halves, Perfect Circle and Godspeed. The song also features a bridge from Absol, voicemail from Mac's brother, and a conversation between Mac and Vinny Radio on the outro. The song as a whole talks about drug abuse. It's no secret that Mac unfortunately passed due to his relapse and tolerance being significantly lower, so listening to him talking about all of this so transparently and being clear that he wants to fix this problem is kind of melancholic. Man, we all miss Mac. He was gone way too soon. In the intro to the song, we hear something being said in reverse. Now I'm sure we've all heard stuff being reversed in songs before, but here it serves the purpose of making the song a true perfect circle. This line of dialogue is directly taken from the conversation shared between Mac and Vinny on the outro. The two actually also used to be in the same Pittsburgh rap collective in 2008 called East End Empire, which is pretty cool. Vinny's been on a couple of songs by Mac before as well, which I'll throw up on screen right now. While the structural loop holds one meaning for the first half being titled Perfect Circle, Perfect circle also refers to how legitimately no one can draw one. This can be seen as an uplifting message to do your best, seeing as everyone's different. But in the context of the song, Mac also uses it as a way to keep going with his current trajectory, push people away and stick with drugs. He talks about this in the chorus, where he references hurting his partner through continually doing these drugs. The whole first bit talks about this dark place that Mac is in, and how these drugs are keeping him in these same bad habits. We then get a bridge from Absol, then finally an outro from Mac. Before we move into the second half of the song, we get a segue from a voicemail system. We hear the voice of Miller McCormick, Mac's brother, who, if you couldn't tell from just hearing his first name, is the source of Mac's stage name, which is very sweet. The voicemail is also real, with Mac rediscovering it years after he'd originally been sent it. While the first half of the song was structured with choruses, hooks, verses, and the works, the second bit is for the most part just one solid verse from Mac. No tricks, no style. Well, there is style, but you know what I mean. It's just straight rapping, brutal and to the point. While Perfect Circle gets its name from the aforementioned structure of the song and the concept of a perfect circle, Godspeed is taken directly from the voicemail from Mac's brother. If you don't know, telling someone Godspeed is giving them well wishes before they embark on some kind of journey. That reflects the second half to a T. While Perfect Circle felt more like a wallowing, Godspeed feels like progress. We hear about Mac reminiscing over his time as a youth and how he thought he'd have life all figured out by that point. He also dedicates this song to all his family and friends, wanting him to get sober, making references to Quentin Miller, Most Dope, and his mother. The line about his mother is particularly heart-wrenching, as he talks about people not having to talk to his mother following him overdosing, which is just terrible to hear about, man. And we see Mac trying to better himself. It sucks. Following this verse, we get the aforementioned outro, which serves as a dialogue between Mac and Vinny, playing into the theming of this perfect circle. Man, Mac was really evolving artistically in the time that we had him, so it's just plain and simple sucks that he was taken away at such a young age. My heart goes out to the McCormick family, always loving and respecting his legacy. Rest in peace, Mac. You will be missed. Kendrick might honestly be my favorite rapper alive. I got into him kind of late though, because I only really started getting into rap in like late 2022. The first song I consciously listened to, because everyone heard Swimming Pools back in 2010, was Mother I Sober, recommended to me by a friend. It's still one of my favorite songs of all time. Mr. Mural is still my favorite album. Nonetheless, let's talk about what's probably Kendrick's most acclaimed piece of work, and probably his masterpiece, To Pimp a Butterfly. More so, let's talk about the final track on his 2015 magnum opus, Mortal Man. The track sits at 12 minutes and 8 seconds and was produced by Soundwave and Thundercat. Much like a few of the songs in this video and the last, the actual song itself is like 3 minutes. Nonetheless, this is Kendrick, so you know damn well we're going to have something to discuss. Over the years, Kendrick has taken a few trips to different countries in Africa, but it was his 2014 trip and visit to Mandela's cell, among other things, that inspired this album. He in fact references Mandela and other black leaders throughout the song, with Mandela's name being among the first words you hear going into the song, and appearing again and again. Throughout Kendrick's whole career, he's been hailed as the savior of hip-hop. You know this, and I know this. Kendrick would of course bring this issue to the forefront in Mr. Mural, but before he did that, he touched on some of his feelings on the matter in this song. Kendrick and other celebrities are mortal. They're not gods, they're people, and Kendrick feels like he has to use his platform in a way that changes lives. He knows what he says can directly influence kids like him in Compton. People revere him, so it's like he has to walk around on glass. Alongside this, he touched on how quickly people can turn on those that they admire. So many leaders, celebrities, and people that want to help get misinterpreted and then shunned. Look at what happened to Mike Jack. Rest in peace. Kendrick touches on him in this song as well, which he does often throughout his discography. From here, if you know T-Pab, you'd know that there's a poem that's slowly getting built upon throughout the tracklist, and from here, we hear it in full. Alongside this, we find out that the poem, which Kendrick has been trying to finish throughout the album, is something that he wanted to share with Pac, and he finally does this in the end. Now, I don't want to hear none of y'all 12-year-old Ken Carson fans calling Kendrick corny when I speak on the next bit, alright? Alright. Kendrick has always loved Pac. When he was a little kid, his dad took him to watch Pac shooting the music video for California Love, and they locked eyes. Kendrick has been open about dreaming about Pac, with one of the more well-known instances of this being Kendrick being told by Pac to make sure not to let his music die. After checking with Tupac's mother, he utilized an interview that Tupac had conducted with P3 Soul in the 90s, cut out the interviewer's questions and replace them with his own vocal snippets. Everybody, no matter how tough they think they are, want to get recognized by someone they admire, and this song is Kendrick having those dreams realized. The two of them get into a dialogue about how black men live. They talk about their own experiences, and more so, they talk about philosophy. It's no secret that Pac and Kendrick are poetic dudes, so if they ever got to speak properly, it would leave anyone that heard it feeling introspective. Kendrick then tells Tupac another poem, about a caterpillar and the mad city it lives in. Two very different things are one and the same. The internal struggle is ended by progress, and the butterfly is able to fly into freedom. Kendrick asks for Pac's thoughts, but he never hears back. Kendrick has woken up, and Tupac is nowhere to be seen. Alongside this, I feel like it's a disservice to not mention that this album was originally titled To Pimp a Caterpillar. Tupac. These are both amazing artists. Pac was taken far too soon, and I hope we get many more years of music from Kenny. Alright, so we've ended the streak of two-part songs. No more from here on out. Let's get into this. Now, in full honesty, I discovered Dave through a Beta Squad video. I love those boys, very glad that they're back. Anyways, this song is a heart-wrenching one, and I truly hope I can do it justice in this video. Leslie is 11 minutes and 7 seconds long and serves as the 9th track on Dave's debut studio album, Psychodrama. It's got this haunting piano melody at the heart of the track, and oftentimes the melody goes off key. However, don't you worry, this is done intentionally. This is done in order to mirror points in Leslie's life where everything is falling apart, which is just genius. Now let me quickly talk about Dave himself. In my last video essay, I got a comment saying that they thought that they were clicking on a video by Zevi, which honestly made me smile because, as I said in the reply, Zevi is a very big inspiration of mine. In fact, Zevi has a video where he talks about Dave's rise into stardom, which is why I'm bringing him up, and I'm going to quickly paraphrase it here. Don't you worry, I've linked it below. Since both of Dave's older brothers got locked up for crimes, Dave's mother forced him to go to school and stay at home. Nothing else, to ensure that he doesn't end up like them. This leads him to grind his rapping, and now, in all honesty, he's the greatest UK rapper alive. Of all time, it's probably MF Doom, even though he's... You know, I might make a video on MF Doom just as a whole, because, come on, everyone loves Doom. Dave's upbringing also plays a role in Psychodrama, as the album is told through his therapy sessions that happen across a year, where Dave is able to work out his traumas and start to heal. Now, let's actually get into this. Leslie is a song about someone that Dave once knew. The song ties into your sense of self, and this can be seen in the chorus that Mural helps Dave deliver. The sense of self, however, is not in relation to Dave, but instead Leslie. As at the end of every verse, Leslie is about to say something, and that something is the chorus. She's telling Dave that she's losing her sense of self day by day. This is all because of her bum-ass boyfriend, Jason. Something that a lot of people don't understand is that when you're in a toxic relationship, you really can't just walk away. And to anyone who thinks it's that simple, it's really not. You're gravely mistaken. This song is a slow burn, as we hear how Leslie slowly descends from the person she used to be. But at least there's Hannah, and she's loyal to her. Jason has also changed Leslie's perspective on love, and now she's running back to him in spite of all the pain he's caused. Leslie and Jason also end up getting pregnant. Leslie ends up leaving at work early one day to tell Jason about the baby. But when she gets home, she finds Jason in bed naked with a woman in the closet. Jason tries to flip the script, using common tactics by abusers to try and feel like Leslie did everything wrong. The two end up getting into a scuffle, and Jason hits Leslie before fleeing the scene. For the moment, she's alive, holding on for her baby, when the police bust in. Jason is nowhere to be found. They try and stabilize her condition whilst looking for clues. Then they find it, a phone in the closet. Hannah's phone. Jason was cheating on Leslie with Hannah. In the stress of what happened, her friend cheating on her, and everything just swirls in her head, leaving her to end up unconscious. She's in a coma now, and Dave doesn't think she'll wake up. Later on, we find out that Leslie and Dave are related in the final track of the album, Drama. In this final verse on the song, however, Dave breaks the fourth wall and speaks directly to the listener. He implores any woman in toxic relationships to seek support, as nothing will change if they don't find their wings and free themselves. We then end with a bridge featuring only Mural, referencing how Leslie's child dies nameless. Finally, the track ends with the conclusion of Dave's year of therapy sessions, which at first glance might be odd, since there's still 2 songs left on the album, but I think this is actually ingenious, as it mirrors what happens after therapy. You stop going, but you really don't stop growing. Something that y'all don't know is that Stankonia, more specifically me listening to the album, is the reason I started a rap group. One of my friends saw me listening to it, and from there everything just clicked into place. Anyways, enough yapping. Liberation is the penultimate track on Outkast's classic 1998 album, Aquemini. It sits at 8 minutes and 47 seconds, and aside from Big Boy and 3 Stacks, has verses from CeeLo Green, Erykah Badu, who was dating Andre at the time, Joy, Screechy Peach, and Big Room on the outro. If you know hip-hop, you know that it's always been about a voice for the voiceless, liberation, and fighting the power. The song fully encapsulates this, as well as somewhat follows the skit that precedes it. Titled Nathaniel, it was 1 minute and 11 seconds long, and featured a guy that Big Boy went to school with. He'd been incarcerated, and Big Boy wanted to get him on the album to lay down a skit for them, But Nathaniel was also trying to be a rapper, so he added a verse as well. Anyways, as I mentioned, hip-hop is about revolting, and liberation is all about being free, which somewhat contrasts the interlude. They're talking on these issues plaguing the community, and how they're trying to change. Alongside this, liberation also serves as outcasts being free to make their own sound. Andre even talked about it in an interview, saying that from here on out, everything they did was for themselves. Andre's verse is all about artistic liberation, and this pairs nicely with Big Boy's verse on freeing yourself from societal constraints, talking about how it's up to people to decide who they want to be and how they want to do it. Every verse on this song is about the feelings of liberation and how you can liberate yourself and those around you in different ways. It's carried into CeeLo Green's Heavenly verse as he talks about how he's feeling tired. Life is a struggle, but it's a struggle that brings joy. You gotta choose if you want to live or if you want to just fade out, and CeeLo touches on all of those ideas here. Yes, I know the man's become a fair bit controversial in recent years, but damn is he an artist. You can't deny that, nor his contributions to this amazing song. After his verse, we then get a refrain from Joy and Peaches, which is just the same phrase repeated 32 times, shake that load off, which is of course a reference to just shaking your ass. Dancing is a liberating art form, and we're being told to dance. Dance our problems away, dance like no one's watching. We're being told to liberate ourselves. Following this refrain, we hear a verse from the legendary Erykah Badu, where much like Andre, she talks about artistic liberation. However, while Andre was more so talking about the self, Erykah touches on another aspect of being acclaimed. Fans and groupies that don't really care for you or about you. She really touches on all of these issues that keep you from being able to be truly free, with people on your back that are trying to keep you down and reap your success. Finally, after Erykah does a verse, we get a sort of poem from Big Rube. Of course it reflects these themes we've been hearing throughout, but as it's represented through a different medium, closer to pure poetry than rapping, it feels different, if you know what I mean. Nonetheless, following Big Rube's poem, we get over 2 minutes of just the instrumental playing, which does in fact factor in for the song's length. But nonetheless, you can't tell me it's not an amazing instrumental. Truly one of Outkast's best. Also, this ain't a posse cut. I don't know if anyone shared that sentiment online, but I just wanted to quickly separate the two. There's several rappers in the dialogue discussing a common topic where they all have something to say on the matter, whereas a posse cut, as you may remember from the start of the video, is a way to showcase the talent of these rappers. It's about trying to tell an interesting narrative, and more so for you to listen to these rappers. You get it? Cool. This song is goated. Now I am 15 years old. I was born during the peak of Odd Future hype, so some stuff I'ma say might not be too accurate. So just in case, just let me know, alright? Back in around 2011, Earl was sent away to boarding school by his mother, which led to a lot of Odd Future fans and the collective themselves spreading the hashtag #FreeEarl. I bring this up because Earl and his mother used to have somewhat of a strained relationship, which this song/EP brings up. Solace is a 5-part song, sorry for lying, and is dedicated to Earl's mother. The song also serves as an EP, with the 5 parts acting as different songs in a way, with different production on all of them. Now, even though the song is 5 parts, there's only 3 verses, as parts 3 and 5 are just instrumental. But nonetheless, it's an amazing song. So without further ado, let's discuss. Part 1 opens up with an intro repeating the phrase, "I've been here before," something that's oh so familiar to anyone experiencing deja vu when they're going through emotional turmoil. Stuck in between a rock and a hard place, we see this melancholic tone continue into the first verse as Earl laments his life, clearly going through a depressive phase with his drug problem not helping him at all. Earl thinks he's going to end up like River Phoenix if he keeps going at his current trajectory. Ending that first beat, we hear Bottles. Earl is indulging in his addictions. Much like part 1, we get another intro for part 2, where a lot of phrases are repeated. Earl is going through the motions, and you can see it in these intros. He's depressed. Alongside this, he's paranoid. Much like most famous people, paranoia follows you everywhere. Everyone knows you, but you don't know them. And people are fake, even if you thought they were transparent. It's also very possible Earl is suffering with suicidal thoughts here. He's showing a lot of self-loathing, comparing small setbacks to the rain, and hoping that they'll turn into monsoons, washing his pain, or more likely drowning himself in it. Finally, Earl talks about his mum. He doesn't want her to see him in the state he's in, especially considering drug usage was part of the reason he was sent to Samoa. From here, we get our first instrumental section. Now, of course, I can't yap too much for the instrumental sections. I'm not an English teacher. But for this one, it's almost as if we're getting a shift in tone for the track. Everything sounds happier. Everything seems happier. Anyways, from there we get part 4, where Earl reminisces about his grandma. He shares her hands, so anytime he looks into them, he's thinking about her. That just makes him cry. She's passed, and thinking about it is unbearable to him. This in a way reminds me of Alone from Tyler the Creator's album, Wolf. Both talk about their grandmas, which is nice. Earl also talks about fellow Odd Future member and close friend of his, Nikel Smith, who was sleeping on his couch at the time. While the subject matter of this 4th part is still very dark, sharing undertones of the ones that came before, we're hearing it in somewhat of a different light, almost as if Earl is starting to move away from wallowing in the depression and instead is trying to share his depression with others. United in grief, he ends the track by saying despite being young, he's wise and mature for his age, contrasting his persona a few years prior in the Odd Future days. Alongside this, he asked for anyone who's going through something similar out there to help him. Then we get the instrumental at the end. The song touches on and blends together a lot of Earl's issues and struggles at the time, those being drug abuse, insomnia, and the crippling depression that this song wallows in. Thankfully, not at all related to the song, but Earl is most likely doing better at this point. I'm not the kind of person to live through a celebrity's eyes, but Earl has gotten married recently, which is amazing to hear about, and I'm very happy for him. The song as a whole is just very lovely, even if it's sad, but sometimes the best songs have to be a blend of both, you know? Now, full transparency, no matter how much I can manage to say about the song in this section, it will not be enough. I implore you to listen to this track and Lupe's discography as a whole. He's one of the all-time greats when it comes to technical ability, and is severely slept on. The song that I'm about to touch on is definitely one of his best, and it outlines so many different things. He's just so amazing, man. The song's titled Mural. It's the first proper track on his 2015 masterpiece, Tetsuo and Youth, and already we're getting into the goddamn lyrical content with the title. A mural is of course a large piece of art, painted onto a wall, and a component of murals is how all the imagery blends together to form a cohesive narrative, much like this track. Alongside this, a picture tells 1,000 words, and this track has 1,377 of them, which you've got to admit is pretty cool, because that's definitely intentional. Come on now, it's Lupe. Now without further ado, let's dive in. Mural is, as aforementioned, the second track on Lupe Fiasco's fifth studio album, Tetsuo and Youth. It sits at 8 minutes and 48 seconds, and ditches hooks and any flashy elements to instead focus on two big-ass verses of pure rapping. Legitimately, the substance in the rapping on a single verse here is more than an average album for most rappers, and the length of a single verse is longer than an average song. And this is no average song. Also, before I start talking about this, normally I research different sources like Genius, YouTube videos, and articles, but the majority of this section will be me sort of paraphrasing an amazing dissection of this song online. I have linked this wonderful Reddit post in the description. If I remember, I will put it in the comments as well. I don't want to claim anything that was made by me or is my own work, so yeah. Anyways, keep that in mind while watching, read the post for yourself. Without further ado, let's talk about the song. It conveys a story about Lupe's struggle with the industry. In fact, this whole album, Tetsuo and Youth, is kind of like Lupe versus the world. Lupe is against everyone and everything, and everyone is against Lupe. So yeah, let's discuss a little bit about one of Lupe Fiasco's greatest tracks, Mural. In this song, Lupe throws shots at rap audiences, his label, the industry, and practically the world. In a way, he's reborn at the end of the song. This is his transformation. I feel like it's no secret that people in control of stuff don't understand what they're in control of, and Lupe is frustrated at that, as anyone would be. Weaker MCs make it, while hard workers are often overlooked and the labels and industry push the former. Lupe's own audience is only there to listen to the music. Like 3 Stacks said in Hey Ya, y'all don't want to hear me, you just want to dance. Alongside his own audience, the mainstream is just consuming watered down media with no regard for substance, which is something that I think is still a prevalent issue in the musical landscape of today. His own label holds him back from trying to do what he wants to do, and he's fed up at this point. He never wanted to get famous. He wanted to attack the system, but people took that message and didn't listen. At this point now, Lupe is done with the mainstream and labels and everyone that wants him to change his art form. He's not going to make music. He's going to make a revolution. And he's not going to follow any label or trend or nothing. It's inspiring, really. Lupe doesn't make music for people who don't want to listen because inherently, no one that makes music with a message wants their stuff to be separated from the artist. Lupe is done trying. He wants to bring new stuff, creative stuff, and that's what he'll aim to do. Yeah, no, that was nowhere near enough on this song. Let me know if you want to hear me talk about this whole song, or even just Lupe at length, because he's for sure in my top 10 of all time. A third of this video is just about Odd Future songs and Odd Future members, which is low-key crazy. This is going to be the final one and the penultimate song I talk about in this video, so let's discuss. Also, sorry, I lied again. This is the final multi-part song in this video. Please forgive me. Future Free is the final track on Frank Ocean's life-changing 2016 album, Blonde. It sits at 9 minutes and 24 seconds, and is, as I briefly touched on, split into 2 parts. However, unlike the previous 2-parter songs in this video, it's a bit of a shock here, as the song is only named after the first part, with interviews being more of a skit that ends the album. Nonetheless, let's discuss this beautiful song. Throughout Blonde, Frank Ocean often pitches up his vocals, convey a younger version of himself. This album is about growing up in Frank's life, so it makes sense as to why he'd do that. This can be seen in several tracks, in particular the intro to the album, Nikes, and the topic of this section, Future Free. The pitch-shifted vocals are also notably not as high as they were previously, and given that these verses take place during Frank's early years of being famous and not really his upbringing, I feel like that was a conscious choice. It separates the album in a way. The first verse as a whole is about Frank being joyous about what and how much he's making, talking about it with his mum, and showing that he doesn't care about people hating for hate's sake. From here, verse 2 carries similar connotations, but it also somewhat serves as foreshadowing in a way. Frank makes references to the conspiracies about Tupac's death and how he hopes if he's out there, he stays hidden. We all miss Frank, but we gotta remember that this man is still grieving. Losing family is a sad reality about life. We can't prevent it, but we can make sure that the people get time to cope. Because like it or not, we're all gonna end up in the dirt. The final verse for this half ties back into a lot of common themes throughout the album. Reflection on your youth and what can change. Frank talks about a lot of these changes here. His life, popularity, and what people think of him. He also touches on one of his old relationships and how he'll drop music whenever he feels like it. This final verse really just wraps up the themes of both this song and the album as a whole. Obviously, most of us can't relate to some of the ending stuff about getting famous and all that, but we can relate to things changing in our lives, people changing, and life changing. Before we can touch on the second part of the song, however, we hear a skit where someone is talking about an altercation they had with some people. That calls back to the fight that Frank had mentioned in the third verse. Alongside this, you can infer that this is all in reference to Chris Brown and his cousins jumping Frank. I already mentioned Zevi, and he also has a video on this, so I'll link that as well. Before we actually get into the second half though, we have 30 seconds of silence. No, I'm not going to do the 30 seconds. Interviews, as the name suggests, is a compilation of recorded dialogues that comes from the magazine, released at the same time as Blonde's drop. For the most part, it's an interview between one of Frank's friends, Mikey Alfred, and his little brother, Ryan Bro. Rest in peace, Ryan. However, there are also several different snippets from other interviews conducted by Mikey with Frank's friends and Frank himself. Mikey asked them several questions, fun stuff like superpowers they'd want to have, who they'd want to switch lives with, secret talents they have, just a lot of different questions, ranging in tone. Also, you can hear Esmeralda in this song, which is really cool. These interviews just feel really nice to listen to in a way, like everyone sounds so happy for lack of a better term, and life sounds so good. Unfortunately, listening to it after Ryan's death leads to some of the lines being just absolutely heart-wrenching. But even then, this is a beautiful, beautiful closer to a once-in-a-lifetime album. The song ends with Mikey asking just how far a light year is, showing how far they've come and how far they'll go. And also, the song is 9.4 minutes, just like a light year is 9.4 trillion kilometers away.
It's running. Yo, fuck you, Kanye, first and foremost, for making me do this shit, motherfucker. I had to throw everybody out the motherfucking room because they're fucking.
I'd like to propose a toast. I said toast, motherfucker.
Now to end this video, let's discuss one of Kanye's best songs ever. The outro to The College Dropout, his first album, titled Last Call. The track sits at 12 minutes and 41 seconds, and the title is meant to draw parallels between closing time in a bar and how this track is the last of the album, letting everyone know this song will be the closer. One of the main samples of this track is Mr. Rockefeller by Betty Midler, and it serves as a key example of Kanye's signature style in these early albums, with that being the chipmunk soul sound. Here, the original sample is pitched up, which then makes it sound reminiscent of something like Alvin and the Chipmunks. This style would of course be popularized by Kanye in the early 2000s, producing for people like Jay-Z, Alicia Keys, Slum Village, and many Chicago acts, with this actually being brought up in the song. Which brings me to my next point. The track as a whole serves as somewhat of a victory lap for Kanye. After years of being overlooked, he recounts his journey to the limelight and reflects on what came before and what's to come for his career. The track opens with Jay-Z, Kanye's mentor, laughing and joking, telling Kanye that he doesn't want to do this, with this apparently being him singing along with a part of the sample, which I actually didn't know. Alongside this, something I overlooked mentioning prior is that the main sample is notable, as of course Kanye is signed to Rockefeller Records, Jay-Z's label. Following Jay-Z's intro, Kanye then proposes a toast to Rockefeller, thanking them for everything they've done for him and his career, before we continue into the first verse. At first, Kanye talks more about the now and what's just happened, touching on his newly found rise to fame and how even still people are doubting that he'll actually stay on top, but will instead be hot for a minute before being forgotten about and then fading into the background. This verse and the song as a whole oozes with that signature Kanye confidence that we learned to love him for. Then he ends with the verse referencing the track that got him his first hit single, Through the Wire. Based off of his accident, we then go back into the chorus / toast to the rock, before we eventually go into the second verse. Much like the first, Kanye touches on him being overlooked by everyone, before becoming one of the most important people in the industry. Kanye opens by talking about the rappers he collabs with, and how he's the next best thing, before pivoting into discussing his own arrogance, something that despite seeming like a hindrance, pushed him to trying to be the greatest, even though all the people that he thought would help overlooked him. He's finally made it, and you can see that in how he raps in the song. Finally, we get another chorus before we transition into what might be honestly one of my favorite Kanye moments. Kanye just talks on the beat. All things considered, this song is actually probably the shortest one I've covered, but much like Runaway, Kanye has a long ass outro, with this one being over 8 minutes long. The reason I like this part of the song so much is because of how real it feels. It's like he's talking directly to the listener, explaining how he got to where he is, the people that helped and hindered him, and the places he's gone. Across the song, you get moments like the Leonardo DiCaprio pointing meme, where you hear about people in songs you've heard of before, and you get an insight into how they are created. We hear about songs like Heart of the City, This Can't Be Life, H to the Izzo, and we get insight on Kanye's failed deals, A&Rs that wanted to get him signed, and label heads that were against it. We just feel like Kanye in the song in a way, you know? One of my favorite parts personally is when we hear Kanye spit a bar we heard earlier in the song. It's like we're seeing how he evolved as an artist. We hear about him and Donda, rest in peace, moving to a new house. It's just such an amazing song overall. Finally, we end with Kanye's deal with Capitol falling apart, and him checking if Rockefeller is still on the table. Whew, that was a long video. If you made it to the end, I appreciate you, and I hope you subscribe. Let me know if you want to see any specific video essay topics, but nonetheless, next time I see you will be in a video essay about something I noticed between Tyler and Frank Ocean. So yeah, thanks for stopping by, subscribe if you want to, and stay comical. Bye bye.